Let me say a brief thank you to our partners. From the US side, to Tom Pelley and Damon Silvers from AFL-CIO, and Professor Gustav Horn from the Macroeconomic Policy Institute of the Hans-Böckler Foundation for their efforts to organize this twin conference with us, the first part of which was held in Washington just exactly 1 month ago. Good to have you with us today. The idea of these transatlantic conferences is in broad terms to develop a mutual and deeper understanding of the economical, fiscal, and political approaches of the other side of the Atlantic. Americans and Europeans are both united and at the same time divided by the economical worries in the shape of the crisis of 2008 and of the approaches to address its problems and causes. Paul Samuelson, America's first Nobel Prize winner for economics, was fond of saying that God gave the economists 2 eyes, and it was up to them to use them. The Eurozone crisis is, among other things, an argument between 2 economical traditions, each accusing the other of limited vision, while themselves have only 1 eye open. That doesn't get us any further. So, by contrast, this conference strives for a joint vision, for an agenda of shared prosperity. That's somewhat new, that sounds amazing. So, have a constructive and productive debate on these issues. Thank you for coming, thank you for listening. And now, it's up to you, Gustav Horn. You have the floor. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you here at the second part of the conference of AFL-CIO, FES, Washington, and the IMK. As Roland Schmidt already has told you, this is the second part of a twin conference. The first part has taken place exactly 1 month ago in Washington. It was a conference with exactly the same topics for all these panels, but different speakers. As you can imagine, the local content was, US-American content was bigger in Washington, and the local German content is bigger here. That is intended, and but we want to establish a dialogue between these both sides of the Atlantic on a different kind of economic policy agenda than we used to. Because I think it was almost a year ago that at the house of Tom Pelley we had the idea, how is the state, that we compared the state of working families in the United States and in Europe and in Germany in particular. And what we discovered was that there are a lot of similarities: pressure on low and middle incomes, wage restraint, in the United States, indebtedness. And we also compared that with the ongoing political agenda debates we have in both countries and across the Atlantic. It was always a debate on increasing competitiveness, always a debate basically formed by supply-side economics, the one eye Roland Schmidt was talking of, where the other eye, the demand side, is neglected. And that particularly applies also to this side of the Atlantic, especially to Germany. And our objective was to establish the debate on a political agenda that takes care of the state of working families in the United States, in Europe, in Germany. That we need a different political agenda, a different kind of economic policy. And these were years and times where major decisions have to be taken. There was an election year last year in the United States. President Obama has been re-elected, and now he has to set up his economic policy agenda. We have an election year this year in Germany, and we have also a debate on our policy agenda. And presently on both sides of the Atlantic, there's one topic which is certainly at the top of the list of all what is debated right now, which is austerity. On both sides of the Atlantic, economic policy is focused on public indebtedness and how to reduce it. And the dominant strategy to reduce public indebtedness is austerity policy. On the Washington conference, we had a very enlightened presentation by Janet Yellen, the vice chairman of the Federal Reserve System. And she showed that despite all the monetary easing we have seen, all the unorthodox monetary policy we have seen, the job creation rate in the United States was still unsatisfactory. And she proved that this was mainly due to the austerity course enforced on the Obama government, to some part at least, by Congress. Well, if I compare that to the debates we have over here, I see quite some similarities. The present German government's economic policy strategy for Germany and as well as in Europe is austerity. The way out of the crisis is seen in a public sector that is shrinking, that is cutting expenditure, that's cutting wages. And it will be no surprise that I have severe doubts about this kind of strategy on a European level, but also on a global level. This kind of strategy will hurt everywhere, and it will hurt the global economy too. And that at the time where the same administrations have also the strategy to get an economic upswing by increasing exports to other areas of the world. So, to where? When austerity prevails. I think these are questions we want to address here with this twin conference from both perspectives, from the United States perspective, from the European and the German perspective. And that's what it's all about here today, that we discuss these issues with many distinguished economists from both sides of the Atlantic. And let me at the end thank especially our co-organizers, especially this time our host, the FES here in Berlin, to host us here at this conference in Berlin, but also the AFL-CIO, Tom Pally, Damon Silvers. And so I wish us all a very fruitful conference, and at the end, a meaningful debate about an agenda on shared prosperity. Thank you very much.